Welcome to the Escape into Board Games podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our escape from the real world where we talk about board games. In this episode, we talk about games that our furry friends would approve of.
So please join us for the Escape into Board Games podcast.
In the tapestry of our lives, certain threads weave themselves into the very fabric of who we are. Two seemingly divergent paths, pet ownership and deep engagement in the board game hobby, unveil captivating connections. These lifestyle decisions, whether you cherish a cat, a dog, or an impressive collection of board games, they transcend mere pastimes and become integral to our identity. Let us delve into the complex interplay between these two realms, exploring how they shape our existence and connect us to a deeper sense of self.
When we bring a pet into our home, we embark on a journey that transcends mere companionship. Whether it's the loyal gaze of a dog, the enigmatic aloofness of a cat, or the fluttering vibrancy of a bird, our pets become more than just animals. They mirror our emotions, adapt to our routines, and even influence our social interactions.
The act of caring for them, feeding, grooming, and nurturing, extends beyond duty. It becomes an expression of love and responsibility. Our pets witness our triumphs and console us during our darkest hours. They are silent confidants, steadfast in their loyalty.
Traditionally, hobbies are activities pursued for pleasure during leisure time. They encompass a wide spectrum from stamp collecting to gardening, from painting to playing musical instruments. Yet, pet ownership defies this neat categorization. It transcends pleasure. It intertwines with our emotional landscape. We don't keep pets solely for our enjoyment. We do so out of compassion, empathy, and a desire to nurture life.
The bond forged with our furry companions extends beyond leisure. It becomes an intrinsic part of our daily rhythm. While pet ownership may involve recreation, walks in the park, playtime, it primarily centers around care and companionship. The joy we derive from our pets is not a fleeting pleasure. It's a profound connection that shapes our identity.
Board games, these cardboard realms, whether they transport us to ancient civilizations, challenge our strategic acumen, or ignite our creativity, also hold a unique charm. Board games are not mere diversions. They are gateways to friendship, intellectual stimulation, and shared experiences. When we gather around a table, dice in hand, we step into an alternate reality. We negotiate alliances, unravel mysteries, and strategize our way to victory. We quickly realize this hobby is more than just rolling dice and moving tokens.
In recent years, board games have experienced a renaissance. They've evolved from childhood pastimes to sophisticated endeavors. Families, friends, and strangers alike huddle over intricate boards, their minds engaged in battles of wit and strategy. Board games foster social bonds, encourage critical thinking, and ignite our imaginations.
Like being a doggy daddy, board games become part of our social identity. The quirky trivia enthusiast, the cunning strategist, or the cooperative team player. The joy of victory, the thrill of a well-executed move, and the laughter shared during game night, they all contribute to our sense of self.
As we explore the nuances of pet ownership and the board game hobby, we discover common threads. Both choices involve commitment, empathy, and a willingness to invest time and emotion. They shape our daily routines, influence our interactions, and reveal facets of our personality. Whether we're cuddling a pet or strategizing our next move, we are actively constructing our identity.
Let's unravel the complexities of these seemingly ordinary choices and celebrate the extraordinary ways they define who we are. For in the quiet moments with our pets and the spirited battles across the game board, we discover not just hobbies, but fragments of our soul. It's this episode where our passion for our pets meets our love of board games. So settle in for Game Night Tales, PetApproved Playtime. Chris. Have you ever been at work or a gathering of some sort and you discover there's somebody in the room that also is into hobby board games? Mm-hmm. And you immediately like, oh, you played this, have you played that?
Yes.
It's not dissimilar to walking up to somebody in a dog park with their dog.
Yeah.
You ever find the two dog owners, when they go for a walk, they'll instantly have this connection and just start chatting like they know each other.
It's so true. Yeah. And the connection just kind of just explodes. It's like, oh, you're a board gamer. Let's talk about board games. Let's do that. And it's very true with dog ownership. I know all the dogs' names and none of the humans' names. It's like, that's Zoe's mom. That's Archie's dad. Those kinds of things.
That's awesome.
It's like, I don't know the people's names. And I'm Apollo's dad, right? Yeah. Apollo's my dog. And you can talk to anyone. It's like this free social pass that says, I'm a dog owner and you're a dog owner. So it's not awkward if we just talk to each other, being complete strangers, about anything and everything. We can talk about our dogs. We can talk about the weather. We can talk about politics and religion sometimes. Like, just because we've met in the same park and we have dogs that want to sniff each other, we can talk about just about anything. It's amazing social thing that just happens.
It really is. I've been with you and we've taken Apollo for a walk together. Right. And we've come across another person with a dog and you sit and you chat with them or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll go, so who is that? And you're like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know the person.
No, that was the first time I met them. I'm like, what? I thought you were like neighbors or something, or like.
They must live around here somewhere. They're walking their dog. It can't be that far.
But it's that like unspoken understanding.
Yeah. And it's kind of true, right? Like if you encounter a board gamer somewhere out in the wild, all of a sudden you've got this you shall pass kind of pre-approved conversation starter. And you can talk about that. I've been to weddings where the bride and groom have sat board gamers down beside each other.
Oh, no way.
Which is clever so that we can, meet and have things to talk about.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and like you have common experiences, right? Like whether it's board games, like I've played this. Have you played that? Yeah. What did you think of this? I like worker placement games.
Yes, yeah.
And with dogs, it's like, well, I've got poop bags in my pocket if you've forgotten one. Or, oh, I've got this really cool foldable water dish that I can take with me. Right. Like there's just so much more to talk about and discuss. For me, that's been really helpful. Like I'm someone who I feel, my wife says that this is not true, but I feel like I'm an introverted person. I'm not an overly social in groups sort of person. But if I go somewhere where there is a dog or a dog owner, I instantly have something to talk about. And even more so if they have, if they're into board games, because it's the same thing. And that really helps me get over that sort of all those sort of awkward interactions that people don't like at parties.
The small talk, right? Like,
what do you do for a living? Oh,
Yeah,
I do this and I do that. What kind of car do you drive? And all this stuff. It's,
Yeah. It reminds me of the joke, how do you know there's a vegan at the party?
Okay. How?
They'll tell you.
Right. Yes, I can see that.
And that's funny, but not all vegans are like that.
No, but it's true of board games.
Yeah, it's true. How do you know there's a board gamer at the party? Oh yeah, they'll
tell you.
They'll try to work it in.
Yes.
But it's interesting. I mean, people at family gatherings will always like, well, you brought a game, right? Like you always, like you're the guy, go and get the game you have in the car. Just bring that out. We want to play that now. And, dog owners always have poop bags in their pockets and then, are on a schedule where they have to, take the dog for a walk.
Yeah, either they brought the dog or it's like, okay, we've got to go because we've got to take them out for a walk.
Yeah. And those things become inseparable, right? Like that's just who you are.
Yeah. And there is that love, right? I mean, you have love for an animal, but you can also have love for these inanimate objects that you own.
Yes. It's like Maria Kondo says,
they spark joy.
Because of all that they do for us, all that they facilitate for us. They bring us together.
Yeah.
They challenge us.
And the memories that are attached to it, the friendships and the relationships that are connected.
Yeah.
That gets transferred to the objects themselves,
Absolutely.
Right? That shelf full of board games. I love that. I love looking at it. Yeah. I get a dopamine hit when I look at those games or when I pull them out. And you remember those experiences.
Yeah. Tim Fowers says board games are software that run on people. And I get such a kick out of that because it's so true. Not unlike a book where you open it up and you're transported to this realm. But it's an interactive place where you get to bring your friends along with you.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Forbidden Island, you guys. Let's see, if we can get the treasure.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go. Who wants to come with me? So when you talk about those attachments of memories and feelings and emotions to a physical object, it's not dissimilar to the code on a disk, right? Like this floppy disk has this Minecraft world that I built with my daughter, and it's amazing and massive, and it took us all day, and we have all these, right? It's like it may as well be a real place, right?
Yeah.
So, and board games are that when you open them up.
Yeah.
Bigger on the inside.
Yeah. It's very true. And having that as part of your identity, everybody knows Chris is the board game guy.
Yeah.
To my friends, I'm the board game. We're all the board game guys to our friends, right? I mean, you and I are the board game guys to each other, but to our friends, we might be the only board game guy they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go to their house, they know you've got a board game in the trunk of your car or a bag that you've put down at the side of the door, just in case we've got some time.
Should the opportunity arise.
Exactly. Or in the case of the game that we're going to talk about here, it's a game that you literally have in your pocket. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little game. It's like a stick of gum. Dig. Dig is a hand management pick up and deliver, push your luck dog bone collecting game for 2 to 4 players ages 10 and up that plays in about 10 minutes. Dig was designed by Chris Handy and published by Perplexed in 2017. Welcome to Dig, where you'll embark on an exhilarating adventure as a dog digging up bones and racing to return them to the matching colored dog bowls. As part of the Pack of Games series, Dig packs a punch of strategic depth in a very small package. In this fast-paced game, each player takes on the role of a dog, navigating the yard, sniffing out bones, and strategically maneuvering to maximize their score. With only 3 actions per turn, every decision counts as you dash across the yard, seeking out valuable bones while outsmarting your opponents. But it's not just about speed, it's about efficiency. The value of each bone is determined by its proximity to the doghouse, with closer bowls yielding higher scores. With the unique leapfrog yard replacement mechanism, timing is key as you jockey for position to influence bone values and outmaneuver your rivals. Will you focus on sprinting ahead to snatch up bones first, or will you carefully plan your moves to position yourself for maximum scoring potential? With each turn, you'll need to weigh risk and reward, adapting your strategy on the fly to stay ahead of the pack. Get ready to unleash your inner pup and dig your way to victory in Dig. This is one of my smallest games.
Yeah.
We talked about another game that was really, really small. And this one could be, it's a different shape, but, it's literally like, 2 inches by, a half an inch by a half an inch. Like
when they say a pack of gum, it literally looks like those old school, Wrigley's, like when gums would come in a long stick, right? Like Juicy Fruit or whatever.
Yeah.
Before blister packs got popular. Yeah.
And you'd get like 6 sticks of gum or 4 sticks of gum for 5 cents or whatever, depending on how old you are there, Matt. But, you could fit 3 or 4 of these in your pocket with no problem and still have room for a wallet.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There are other games in this series. We haven't talked about any of the other ones yet.
No.
This is the first one we've talked about.
Yeah.
But it's the Pack-O Games series.
Right. Which is a kind of a play on the pack of gum. Like,
exactly.
I'm going to pick up a pack of gum, a pack of game. Yeah. And, there's like a dozen or more. I don't even know. There's a lot.
I think Chris did 2 series of them. So there was actually like a first round, and then it was so popular they came out with even more. So
right. I haven't played that many of these games. I played about 4 or 5, and every single one of them They are really fantastic.
Yeah.
Like they're all really deep strategic games. You think, oh, what could possibly be involved? There's only like 20 little cards in here.
Yeah.
And a set of rules on this tiny little piece of paper.
And the cards are like these tall, skinny cards, right? They are the shape of like a fat stick of gum.
Yeah.
They're kind of that sort of ratio.
Yeah, the long, thin cards. And in this case, for Dig, the cards have a grassy part and a dirt part. And in the grassy part, you can see sort of these two smell trails. They're like, there's smell coming up from under the ground. So it might be like this little poof of red smell and a little poof of blue smell.
Yeah.
And what that means is on the back, when you go to investigate that spot of the yard, you flip the card over, and on the back of the card, there is either a red bone or a blue bone. So you always know you've got this sort of 50-50 chance of getting a bone that you want, right?
Right.
If you're collecting a certain color. At the beginning of the game, all the cards are used. 5 of them are dog bowls and 20 of them are bones. You shuffle them and you lay them out with the smelly side up, the bone side face down to the board. You lay them all side by side so it's this really long sort of panoramic view of the yard, right? Your dogs either go above or below the row of cards.
So you're picking up these bones and trying to get them to the right colored bowl.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
On your turn, you can do one of 3 things. You can move your dog. You can dig up a bone, which lets you flip over the card and look at the bone on the other side and either put it back in the hole and leave it where it is or take it into your hand. If you take it into your hand, you replace the hole with the last card in the row. And that resets where everything is, right?
Wow.
Including potentially those dog bowls.
Yeah.
The third thing you can do is drop your bone into the same colored dog bowl. And you would collect it face up in front of you, and you'd get points for that at the end of the game. That's how you win.
Okay.
You move your dog around, and this part's really clever. I like how they do this. You can move 1 to 4 spaces. You can move as many as you want between 1 to 4. But as you collect bones, you can't move around as much. So if you have 1 bone in your hand that you've collected on a previous turn, you can only move 3 spaces. 2 bones, you can only move 2 spaces. 3, you can only move more, and you can't hold any more than 3 bones. If you dig up a 4th bone, you can actually bury it. So for example, if I'm really far away from the purple dog bowl, as I dig up the purple bone instead of the blue bone, I might want to just bury one of my purple bones in that hole and leave it there because it's going to take me a long time to deliver that bowl, making my dog slower.
Yeah, okay.
What happens when you dig up a bone is it creates this sort of 1-card hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And you have to replace it with the last card, which is, at the beginning of the game, it's probably just another bone card, right? And it's going to have a different colored bone in it. And you'll do that a few times. And then eventually you'll get to one of the cards that has these dog bowls on them. And now you've changed the order which they appear from right to left.
Yeah.
Closest to the doghouse. And because you've changed that, you've changed how the bones are worth.
Oh, okay.
So I've been collecting blue bones, and now I've moved the blue bowl closer to the doghouse. So now, until that bowl has been moved again, those bones are worth more points than the other colored.
Oh.
At the end of the game, all that'll be left are these 5 dog bowl cards. They'll be in an order that is closest to the doghouse and farthest to.
Right.
The closest one, each bone is worth 5 points. Second closest is worth 4. Third is 3. And the last ones are worth 1.
Okay.
So you are constantly manipulating the market
Yes.
to make your bones more valuable and get them as close to the doghouse as you can. That involves this really specific timing because you don't want to let someone else move the yellow bowl. And you want to make sure that it's moved to the closest to the doghouse, as close to the end of the game as you possibly can, because then someone can come in and slip another bowl in front of you. It's really a neat kind of game.
Because you're only ever going to move the last card in the row. And
Exactly.
So once you've moved the yellow bowl, it's likely not going to be the last card
Exactly.
for a while. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing this once, but I completely forgot this part of the game. Like, I remember the set collection and moving 1, 2, 3, or 4 spaces ahead, and that kind of felt like a time track. Like, you kind of wanted to get to the colored spots first and dig to those spots before your opponent does. But then once you've got bones with you, your movement is slowed down. And that was an interesting little puzzle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot about the scoring the dog bowls at the end of the game and which order they ended up in and how important that is.
That's really where the complexity of the game comes, because you're doing so well in that beginning part. You've got 4 blue bones. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to get lots of points for each of those bones. But at the very end, someone slips in a yellow bone, and now your blue bones, which were worth 4, is only worth 3 each, right?
Yeah.
So you've lost 4 points that way. It's a very fast game because you can do 3 things on your turn. So you can move, dig, and move, and then next turn drop the bone off and keep going. And those cards disappear very quickly. There's only 25 cards in play throughout the whole game. So, they get dug up pretty quickly and delivered pretty quickly. And the game really is about efficiency, right? Like, it's about, okay, I'm carrying 2 blue bones, but that blue dog bowl is so far away. With 2 dog bones, I can only move 2 spaces.
Yeah.
And I've got to move 5 to get to the blue dog bowl. Maybe I don't want to carry blue. Maybe I want to just leave them there. And then, of course, you move and you dig up a red bone. You're like, oh, the red bowl is much closer. I can drop off this red bone. I'm just going to put this blue bone back underground, and I'll put this card back on the table. And then, of course, someone comes along and they snatch all your blue bones and they deliver them, and then the blue bones are worth a lot. It's a fast playing game. You can play it, once you've played it once, you can play it really, really fast in 5, 6, 7 minutes. And
it almost is necessary because of the way that those dog bowls end at the end of the game. Kind of almost feels so random, because the way that they end up in their order is kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
They're going to be replaced by the cards that we're digging up, and it's sort of hard to get your head around that mechanism. And it can be a little bit frustrating. Like, you invest in blue thinking blue's going to be great, and then it turns out blues are only going to score 1 per bone, and you get all frustrated because it was hard to see how the movement of the dog bowls was going to occur over the course of the game.
Yeah, I've even played games where I've tried, okay, like my first move, I'm going to take the first spot beside the doghouse. I'm going to dig it up, and I'm going to move the green bowl there as fast as I possibly can. And you get it there, and you're like, that's great. And then, of course, you end the game where you've got like no green dog bones, right?
It is very surprising to me the amount of complexity in such a small game.
There really is a lot. Like, it's easy to learn, fast to play. You can play this a lot of times in a single sit down, and it just makes you think.
Yeah.
It really does. It's like, oh, how's this game going to turn out? We should definitely talk about some more Paco games in the future, because every one that I've played has been surprisingly different from the other ones, and surprisingly deep and strategic for this game. Yeah, it's a tiny little game. And I've seen people, if you went to the Kickstarter, you could buy the whole set, and you get like this little carrier case and all this sort of thing. Yeah. But, if you only have a few of them, they're easy to get lost because they're tiny.
I was looking for mine. I have one. I can't find it.
It's the smallest of the small games that you have. So you got to go to your small game shelf and look behind everything, because it's probably buried.
I think it might be in the small game drawer at this point. It's so small.
There you go. Yeah. There's no excuse not to bring a really high quality, fast, fun game with you wherever you go when you've got this Paco Games series games, because they fit in every single pocket and take no time. Lots of times with cats and dogs, we like to anthropomorphize them. And, I'll constantly be filling in Apollo's thoughts, right?
That's right.
Like, I'll talk to him and I'll say, why did you do that? Well, Dad, you told me I could. No, I didn't. I never tell you that. I carry on this sort of, single-sided conversation for them. And the idea of putting cats and dogs into board games, gives designers a little bit more creativity. They can do things like give them personalities and create this whole world around them. Or, put the cat or the dog into space.
MLEM, Space Agency. MLEM Space Agency is a dice-rolling, press-your-luck space exploration game for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, that plays in about 45 minutes. MLEM Space Agency was designed by Reiner Knizia and published by Rebel Studios in 2024. Welcome to the most daring adventure in the galaxy. In MLEM Space Agency, you're not just any explorer, you're a fearless feline captain leading a cosmic expedition with unmatched bravery and a hint of adorable clumsiness. As cats who've conquered the Earth, you're now setting your sights on the cosmos, ready to leave your paw prints among the stars. In this dice-rolling press-your-luck game, every decision could lead to perfectly chaotic catastrophe, or launch you into interstellar fame. Will you take the helm of the cosmic rocket, guiding your crew through the asteroid belt and alien encounters? Or will you trust your cat instincts and bail out just in time, avoiding fiery mishaps? Get ready for an out-of-this-world adventure where bravery, luck, and a touch of feline charm collide. Are you ready to lead the most exceptional feline space agency in history? Strap in, hold on to your whiskers, and prepare for a journey that's guaranteed to leave you purring for more. So MLEM Space Agency, that's the name of the game, MLEM.
Does it stand for something?
MLEM. I thought it was an acronym, but it's actually... The internet-famous word MLEM is a cute, automatic peek imitation of that licking action. But well before internet lingo came to be, the Cantonese language has long used the word MLEM as its word for lick. MLEM.
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 That's awesome.
The game is incredibly produced. Like, Rebel Studios has... I don't know, it's insane. The lettering on the cover is all gold.
Wow.
And then inside you have this giant playmat, which is the board. And it's this long, skinny board that stretches out like a mouse pad, right?
It's a neoprene material. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's really long. It's like a table runner.
It's really long. It's like a long, skinny board. Instead of it being like a square board like Monopoly, it's just long and skinny.
It looks like a space-themed table runner. My wife's going to be very proud of me for knowing what a table runner is. It's very, very long. I think some tables that we play on might not even fit that. That's nice looking, though. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. And basically at the bottom, you have where you keep track of how many times the ship has crashed, this little time track along the bottom, and that's Earth. It's like the planet at the bottom. And then there's this little trail that travels up into the sky, passing some moons and some planets, and then eventually into the galaxy. But there's 27 steps to this path.
Wow. That
we're climbing, and passing by 5 different planets and several moons around each planet as well.
Cool.
And the object of the game is to colonize space, to get up into as high as you can, drop off your little cat paw, say you were there, and then get as far as you can. But it's a press your luck game. So on these travels, you want to get as high as you can without crashing.
Right.
On your turn, the captain is going to roll a set of dice. And depending on which spot they are on that path, they'll be able to spend some of those dice to travel further along the path. But the dice that you spend are then discarded forever, and then you're rolling less dice on the subsequent turns.
Right. So it gets harder.
Yeah. Some spots will allow you to spend afterburners, which are dice that you can get you one step ahead without spending the die. You get to re-roll that die. So that's kind of a strategy that you would play, where you would want to stick to the spots that have afterburner spaces so that you can keep your dice for longer. But you could also spend more dice to get you further along the path, right? You want to get as high as possible. So am I going to spend these 3 dice because that's going to give me 6 spaces, ahead? Or do I want to spend these 2 dice and only go a couple of spaces? After you've rolled, you can spend as many dice as you want that match the criteria. But once you've spent them, they're gone. And so you're trying to spend as little dice and get as far as possible. At the end of that turn, everybody on the ship has a choice to get off the spaceship.
Okay.
And if you do, you jump off to the nearest planet, or the nearest moon, and you can score points. Each planet is going to have an area majority component to it.
Okay.
The more cats we have on that moon, the more points you're going to get. But if the captain rolls the die to go to the next planet and there aren't any symbols to spend, that's when the ship crashes and we all go back to the starting point. Nobody loses their cats. We all have, that 9 lives thing. So the cats do stay with the ship. We could start again, but we've lost that progress. Whereas some of the cats that got off got to score those planets and moons, and the cats that didn't crashed and didn't score. But we're not losing our astronauts.
No cats were harmed in the making of MLEM.
Brilliant.
So do you have cardboard cat tokens that do the area majority? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Each player is given a handful of cat tokens. They're little silhouettes of cat shapes, and they go on their player board. You've got your captain, and everyone has unique art. So there's different cats and different species of cats, depending on which color you represent.
Cool.
Each cat token will have a little power that they can use. Maybe they jump off one planet up or one planet down from where they're going, or maybe they can score double on moons or planets. So at the beginning of the round, you would pick one of these tokens to be on the ship, and that's going to be your cat for this trip. Everybody has a cat on the trip, and one player is the captain. And that one player will try to get as high up on the track as possible before it crashes. And then once it crashes, we switch captains.
Rebel Studios does this amazing job, right? That game looks fantastic. I love that it comes with this really long, impressive neoprene map. The artwork is adorable and cute on this game. And what I love the most, I think, is it looks like it's victory point tokens.
Yeah.
Is that what they are?
Yeah.
And they're all different shapes. Like some of them are like this little toy bird. Some of them are
A little
ball of yarn.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like things that the cats would play with. Like that's just so brilliant. I love it. They do such a great job. They did Chronicles of Avel as well. That was this really fantastically, maybe overly produced game.
Yeah.
That was my favorite game of the year when that came out. And it's such a good game. Like so good. It's a fun game, has amazing pieces, really innovative the way it all comes together. The production is fantastic on it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they've done the exact same thing with MLEM. I can't wait to play this.
They've oversized, extra long playmat, neoprene playmat, rolls up and fits in the box. Like it's not an extra thing, right? Like it's default. Comes with the game. All the tokens, like you said, a big, thick, chunky cardboard. The little spaceship is a nice little wooden spaceship, and the dice are all custom dice. And I think it retails for $35 Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah, it feels
great.
like it's a very overly produced kind of thing, but yeah, they've priced it at $35, and I think that's brilliant. It's this family weight game with beautiful production. And then in addition to this, not simple, because it's got some depth to it, this push your luck, right? It's not like, yes, there is that, do we stay or do we go? Those decisions kind of feel simple, but which planet do you want to get to, and where do you want to focus your area majority? And there's rewards that you can earn, like the first cat to have 4 moons, or the first cat to colonize 3 planets, right? And you would get these little bonuses. There's all these little ways to get your points.
That's cool. I like that.
And it's really kind of interesting. And so these badges will sit out on the board with these fancy looking space marine cats and their badge and stuff, and I'm going for that one. I want to get my 5 planets, and I get my 5 victory points if I'm the first person to get 5 planets. And it feels very robust and a little bit over the top for what it is, but then once you're playing it, I really appreciate the production.
Right. You get into it, that the theme, while it feels silly at first, it really sort of adds to the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like all the cats are in these big clunky, sort of astronaut helmets and astronaut outfits. But then they have one of the cats has like a spatula that he's holding. I think it's kind of weird.
I think it's might be a kitty litter scoop.
Yeah. Oh, that's a kitty litter scoop. That's what it is. Okay, I take it back. It's not weird. It makes perfect sense thematically. That's perfect. And one of the planets has a big paw print on it. It's very cutesy art, but it's beautiful art.
Yeah.
And it makes it that much more appealing. Like, I really, really want to play this game. I guess my question is, in terms of components, you've got this giant play mat. Could it fit on a restaurant table? Like, it's so big, I'm not sure it could. Like, it could fit at a con, like, for sure. Like your dining room table or at a con table, but like a restaurant-y kind of, a cafe table. Is it too big for that?
It's not. It's pretty big. I would say, what is that? 4 feet long, maybe? 3.5 feet?
Yeah, that's long. Yeah. So it might fit on some of the smaller tables.
But it does. Yeah, it looks like a runner. It's really unique.
Yeah.
I like this format. Like, I like the aspect ratio of the board. Like, we're not dealing with a square board anymore. This is like long and skinny, and we're trying to get to the top, right? Like, at the bottom is Earth, and that's really boring down here. And up at the top is, well, look at that galaxy, and the point's really high up there. And you really feel as though those things are far away. And they are, right? Because the board is unusually long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very cute. It's a cute game. Like, certainly if you like cats and you're looking for that sort of family weight game, push your luck game, this definitely looks like it's for you. I definitely have to give this one a play. I like the look of it. It looks like a lot of fun. I like games like this that sort of push your luck, sort of climbing the mechanism together, and then you decide when to jump out or to jump off.
Yeah.
That looks really, really good.
It comes with a bunch of expansions that you can, like modular expansions that you can add or remove to increase the depth and complexity.
Awesome.
Like, Reiner Knizia is known for having like a complex scoring system. And in this game, when you just play the base game, feels almost straightforward.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask next is, so what's the weird twist at the end that you have to subtract everybody's points?
It's all these expansions and the different ways that you can incorporate them. And of course, if you just put one in, that's going to do one thing. But if you put two, they're going to interact with each other in a different way and really change the way things go. There's like these aliens that you can incorporate and stuff. And I haven't gotten into those expansions because I really felt that the base game, without anything at all, had enough going on.
Cool. I'm excited by this one. I really, really want to play this. This might be on my need to buy list because you're the only one that I know who has it. And I can't wait till we get together. So yeah, no, it looks good. I love Knizia's, little twists to games. I love the artwork. The theme is very fun. And, I'm a sucker for games that are really well produced.
Yeah, me too.
They add a little bit to the game, just like the theme does.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not everything, but they add enough to it. Yeah, it's very cute. I like it a lot. Looking at the game, obviously, because of its theme, it's cats in space, right? Which always makes me think of that Muppets skit that they did,
Pigs in space.
Pigs in space. Because, it makes me say cats in space. It definitely makes me think that every time I see the box and the artwork. It's got that fun appeal. I'm talking about all the dog games in this episode in honor of my dog, Apollo, who, little known fact, is also my podcast buddy. Whenever I'm recording a podcast with you, he's always lying on the bed behind me, listening to me talk. And the minute we are done, he gets all excited and jumps up and wags his tail. Because that usually means he's going to get to go for a walk, the one activity that I have to do a couple times a day with him. A dog makes me get out there, go for a walk. It gets me out in the community. I meet people. I talk to people. It becomes this social engine for that part of my life. Dog Park. Dog Park is an auction, set collection, pick up and deliver dog walking game for 1 to 4 players ages 10 and up that plays in about 60 minutes. Dog Park was designed by Lottie and Jack Hazel and published by Birdwood Games in 2022. Dog Park isn't your run-of-the-mill stroll through the neighborhood. It's a competitive canine adventure where leashes become lifelines and reputations hang in the balance. Imagine sun-kissed grass, a symphony of barks, and choices that echo throughout the park. You're not just walking dogs, you're weaving stories. Will you be the retriever whisperer or the terrier tango dancer? Choose wisely, the grass remembers. So leash up, fellow walker, and let the tales tell your story. It's a beautiful day, and you're a dog walker with your own kennel of dogs that you're going to take for a walk every round. You're going to try and walk as many dogs as you can throughout the game, and you're also going to be drafting or recruiting dogs into your own little kennel that you then take for walks. You'll get points based on the breed of each of the dogs that you take for walks. And on each of your walks, you're going to be collecting different things that you find. You might find a ball in the park or a stick that your dog can play with. The game is broken down into a couple different parts. The first part is you're drafting these cards in what is essentially a really simple card drafting mechanism.
Yeah.
There's this beautiful artwork, first of all. I mean, there are these painted dogs of every different breed. You get a stack of over 160 different dog cards.
Yeah, and they're so beautiful.
They're beautiful paintings of each different breed, and the artist that they've chosen has really captured the dog's personality on the card. Like, they really kind of shine. And if you're playing with someone who loves dogs, half the game is spent talking about, oh, this dog's really smart, or this breed does this, or I love pugs, or whatever. They're just so quirky. Look how he's doing this in the picture. Like, it really works that well.
The problem, though, of course, is in the game, some breeds will be worth more points than others, on setup, and some cards will have certain abilities that would be more useful, but you're not making those decisions. You're like, oh my God, that wiener dog's so cute.
Exactly.
I want him in my collection. And you have to really fight that instinctive urge to go for cuteness and look at what's going to gain you some points.
You get so emotionally attached. Like, I drafted the dog that looked like my last dog, Zuzu. I was like, I have to have my Zuzu dog. I don't care that she's not worth as much points as the other dogs that are out there. I have to have Zuzu.
Yeah.
In another game, Sherry had Apollo. She had our dog Now, this yellow lab. She took him, and he looked like Apollo in the picture. And then she left him at the park. Oh. She traded him for another dog. What? She left him in the park.
Outrageous.
I was traumatized.
I would never do that.
I know. Don't listen, Apollo. So the game is broken down into a couple stages. Across the top of the board is these 4 forecast cards. The forecast cards represent the different rounds of the game. So each round, the rules are going to change just a little bit. There might be something that, gives you an extra thing that you can do on your turn, or a little bit more points, that kind of thing. There are cards that sort of randomize the board each round, so it changes some things on the board a little bit more. But the game itself is broken up into 2 main phases. The first phase is this drafting. So you put down a dog, or a card with a dog on it, for each player in the game. So if there's 4 players, you're going to put down 4 cards. Everyone is going to draft a card. You're always going to get a dog. And in fact, you're going to do this draft twice. So every round of the 4 forecast cards, you're going to get 2 dogs. You'll end the game with 8 dogs in your kennel. Some of them will have been walked. Hopefully all of them will be walked, but some may not. On the dogs themselves, there's some flavor text that tells you a little bit about the breed. There's this beautiful artwork. They have a color that helps you identify the breed. There are these icons on the left-hand side, and this is the things that you need to incentivize the dog to go on the walk.
Oh, yeah.
So some dogs might have 2 treats. They might have a treat in a ball or a stick in a ball, and you have to have those resources in hand from a previous walk, or from the start of the game. You get some resources so that the dog will want to go on this walk with you, so he'll cooperate on the leash, basically. So, you might have a dog, he only needs a squeaky toy. All right, bring your squeaky toy, pup. Let's go for a walk. And you could take up to 3, sometimes 4 dogs on your walk, depending on the cards that come out. You put them on your lead, and every dog has an ability. Those dog abilities trigger at 3 different spots. One of them is at the end of the game. So it might say, get an extra point for every this kind of breed, or that kind of breed. Or it might say you get 2 points for every dog you walk, that kind of thing. The other one triggers when you're on the walk. So they might let you do things that you couldn't normally do on a dog walk because this dog is crafty, or it's fast, or it's slow, or something like that. And then the third ability is when you actually choose to take them from your kennel and put them on the lead. Like you put them on the leash and the dog's so enthusiastic, he's going to give you some sort of bonus. Like he might take his toy or he might grab a stick on the way or something like that.
Right. Give you a few extra resources or allow you to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you go for the walk, I mean, the walk itself is really, really simple, almost too simple. There's sort of a low road and a high road. You have to choose. At some point, there's a fork in the road and you have to choose, do I want to go over the bridge and around or do I want to just take the simple route? And each path has a number of different resources on them. So you might find a toy in the park, a ball, a stick.
Along the path, you can choose to go, 1 to 3 spaces at a time?
1 to 4 different spaces. So if you go real slowly, you're collecting resources. I got a stick here, and then I moved one and got a ball, and then I moved and got a toy, that kind of thing. Or you can race through the walk and go 4 spaces every time, and your walk will be over fast. The reason you might want to do that is because at the end of the walk, there are these bonuses. The bonuses are, for the first player, might get 3 points. The second player might get 2, that kind of thing.
Right.
And you can choose which one you want. And then there's this spot on the bonuses where you can actually trade the dog that you just walked to the market again and take a different dog, which helps you set collect for the end of the game. And that'll help you get points. The last person on the walk has to leave. That's an important factor. Whoever's last doesn't get to go 1 space, 1 space, 1 space, and collect all these resources and do all these things while everyone waits for them to finish their long dog walk.
Nope.
The last person on the walk doesn't get to take any more turns. They just go to the end of the walk and they actually lose a point
for being last.
Instantly for being last. So that's kind of a neat mechanism.
Yeah.
At the end of the walk, the dogs are tired. They get this little collar token that gets put on the card itself to indicate that dog's been walked. Maybe he's been walked 2 times already. And they go back into your kennel. So this goes on for 4 rounds. Each round is a little different because of the forecast cards. You're drafting 2 dogs each time, so you have to have the resources from previous walks to pay for those dogs to go on their walks, and you're getting these collars for having walked them. Every round, you're also getting points for every dog that you've walked and losing a small amount of points for every dog that you didn't walk. So throughout the game, there's a few different ways to get some points. Different spots on the boards might give you points. If you finish your walk first, you might gain 3 points. If you finish it last, you might lose 1 point. So you're going to add up the points that you've gained from the board. So then you're going to go through the dogs that have the final scoring ability. So on the bottom of every card, I said there was these 3 abilities. Some of them say final scoring, and that might say get 2 extra points for every toy dog in your thing. So I've got 4 toy dogs. That's 8 points, that kind of thing.
Okay.
You'll get some points from winning these breed expert awards. So after you've walked all your dogs, your kennel will have these 8 dogs in them. Each dog will belong to one of the 7 different breed categories.
Terrier.
Gun dog.
Working dog.
Utility dog.
Pastoral.
Toy dog.
Hound.
You've got these 7 different breeds. You're going to randomize them at the beginning of the game. And the person who collects the most of each different breed will get the points listed beside them. The top dog is the gun dog. Whoever has the most gun dogs gets 7 points. Whoever has the next most popular dog this game might be the toy dog. You get 6 points for those kinds of things. That's Dog Park. It's fun. It's a relaxing game. It's one of those kind of like Wingspan or like Bob Ross, The Art of the Chill. It's just this chill, relaxing sort of, I'm going to take the dogs for a walk. There's lots of options. It's got really friendly gameplay. It's, I'd say, family weight. It definitely seems to get compared online to Wingspan because there's such a number of cards. There's 160 different dogs. It's about an animal. And the way those cards work together, I don't think they quite combine in the same way that Wingspan does.
Right, yeah.
Wingspan is this real engine building game. And there's an itty bitty teeny tiny part of that. Like one of the things you can't do on your walk is you can't be on the space of another dog. So Matt is on the 3rd space with his dog, but I want to go there because that's the space where I need to collect the ball.
Yeah.
If I go there, I can get the ball, but it's going to cost me a point. I have to pay for the right to collect those resources with points
Yeah.
from the board. So I lose points to do that. But some dogs will give you the ability on your walk that every time you get a stick, you get another stick, or every time you get a squeaky toy, you get a ball, or it lets you go on the same space as another walker and you don't have to pay the penalty.
Yeah.
So that's where strategy comes in, is the dogs that you choose to take on their walk. While you want to walk every dog and you want to walk them as soon as you get them kind of thing, sometimes it makes more strategic sense to walk the dog from the first round every round because he lets you go on the same space as everyone else. And the walk is kind of fun because, like I said, you can race through that walk. You can go 4 spaces every time, putting this pressure on everyone who's behind you. Like, oh no, I'm not going to get all the resources I need to get the dogs. And you can always see the dogs that are going to come up for drafting in future rounds. You can always see them. So you're always like, okay, I really want that toy dog, or I really want that hound. And he requires 2 treats and a stick. So I better get 2 treats on this walk because I'm really trying to get that hound.
Yeah.
And there's Chris who's pushing this pace of the walk as fast as you can.
Yeah, you're not going to get the resources you need. It almost feels like a time track in that the player that's in front of you is going to accelerate the game to the point where you aren't going to get what you need. But you need what you need in order to accomplish what you want for the next round. And while it's true, you can see what the dogs coming up for the second round are going to require, right? You've got 2 toys. They want some sticks and a treat. And so you know you're going to need sticks and treats, but it almost makes sense to get as many resources into your supply as possible, but try to get the resources you need for the dogs you already have.
I see.
Because you don't know if you're going to be able to draft the dogs you want. So you could be like, oh, I want to get that hound into my supply, and he's going to require a treat and a stick. So you get the treat and the stick, but then you don't end up drafting the hound. Your opponent does.
That's true.
And so it's really sort of, I found a little bit frustrating in that way, that you couldn't plan far enough ahead. And so I just went and tried to get as many resources as possible and then get as many dogs as possible. And then once I've got my dogs in my kennel, I'm taking my first batch of dogs for a walk again. When I'm going for my second walk, I'm now getting the resources I needed for the dogs that I just drafted but haven't walked yet.
Right. No, that's a good point. There's definitely a lot of player interaction. And there are spots on the walk, in most of your walks, where you can trade the dogs that are in the next turn's market.
Yes.
With the dog that you're taking for a walk. Again, because you want to get the more higher valued breeds. That hound is ranked first place with the most points.
Yeah.
So you want to trade your, lowly little working dog or your gun dog that you're taking for a walk this round because he's only worth 2 points for that hound that's worth 7.
Yeah.
So you can stop on that location, trade your walked dog for the hound, and then, you've increased the reputation or the prestige of your kennel and gotten yourself more points at the end of the game. Kind of a cold-hearted thing to do thematically in this game.
Yeah. You're really weird to get your head around that thematically. I'm just going to leave this dog here and take this other dog with me instead.
Right. It works in the gameplay, maybe not so much in the thematic. And of course, throughout the game, you're like, okay, how many of the toy dogs do you have? How many of the gun dogs do you have? Oh, he has 4 gun dogs. I have 3. I need to get another gun dog, that kind of thing. And sometimes it makes sense to draft that less valuable dog for just 1 victory point because you can trade them in, right? One of the rewards on the walk is a trade, but one of the rewards at the very end of the walk is to trade dogs too. Yeah. So there's lots of opportunities to make the dogs that you've been collecting and walking much more valuable to you as you collect them. It's a beautiful looking game. It's really chill. It's a nice, calm game. It's a very friendly rules. Yes, there are times where it's frustrating where a player may take a dog that you want or you can't get the resources that you want, right away.
Yeah.
But the rules are friendly enough that there's flexibility.
Yeah.
It works very, very well. It's a great game. I like the game a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to play it more. And everyone that I've played it with has liked it. And I've had a few people who have been like, oh, I'm going to go buy this game and where can I get it and that kind of thing. So it's a good game.
Comes with little doggy bowls to hold the pieces.
Yeah, that's part of the insert.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, the insert for the game is really well thought out. Yeah, as you know, I'm a doggy bag person. No. I'm a plastic bag person. I like to bag my components of games and throw them in the middle of the box.
Gross.
And you're an insert person. Yeah. And I always find that once I sleeve the cards and I put the components in bags, the insert, this very expensive, well thought out insert no longer works with bags and sleeves sometimes. This is not the case with Dog Park.
Nice.
Dog Park is the perfect insert. Everything fits in there so nicely, whether you have the card sleeved or not.
Amazing.
And if you put things in bags, there's still lots of room for everything.
Okay.
And, that does give me some hope that they'll be doing some more expansions. It's a great game.
Yeah, that's great.
Dog Park by Birdwood Games. So we've talked about dogs digging in the back. We've talked about cats in space. And we've talked about dogs going on a peaceful, calming dog walk.
Oh. Let's talk about cats again. Isle of Cats. Isle of Cats is a drafting, polyomino tile placement, cat rescuing game for 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, that plays in about 90 minutes. Isle of Cats was designed by Frank West and published by The City of Kings in 2019. Welcome to the Isle of Cats, a whimsical realm where whiskered wonders await and feline fun knows no bounds. In this captivating board game, you'll embark on a thrilling rescue mission to save as many adorable cats as possible before the nefarious Lord Vesh casts his shadow upon the shores. As citizens of Squall's End, you'll face a delightful challenge, arranging a menagerie of polyomino cat tiles on your boat. Your task is twofold. Ensure each furry friend finds its rightful place while keeping families together. With each cat tile representing a unique member of the feline kingdom, your creativity and strategic prowess will be put to the test as you strive to maximize your rescue efforts. But beware, for the clock is ticking. Will you save all the cats in time, or will Lord Vesh's shadow cast a perplexing obstacle in your path? With every decision you make, the stakes grow higher, and the thrill of the rescue intensifies. From the colorful artwork to the satisfying puzzle of fitting tiles together, every aspect of the game is designed to whisk you away to a world where adventure and adorable kittens reign supreme. So gather your crew, prepare your boat, and get ready for a rescue mission like no other. The Isle of Cats awaits.
So, there's an island full of cats, and we're trying to rescue them.
That's right.
From something called Lord Vesh.
Sure.
Okay.
But really what we're trying to do is get all the cats onto the deck of your boat.
Yeah.
I mean, every player has a ship, and that's the deck. Cats don't want to go in the hold. They don't want to go in a cupboard. They all want to lay sprawling out in the sun.
That's right.
So it's a polyomino tile placement game, and these cats are sprawled in funny shapes, making funny shaped polyomino tiles, which are like Tetris pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a square with a little other square sort of sticking off the side, or a big Z or something.
Or a cross or an L or something.
Yeah.
They're these sort of really funky looking cats, and they're sprawled out into X's and curled up into a little square position, or one's got its leg out because it's like an L, or he's really stretched into like, this eye with one little piece, or so they're all these weird polyomino shapes, Tetris-y kind of shapes, and the cats are on these pieces sort of as if they were, like you said, lying in the sun in the shape of that piece. It's really funny. And the cats themselves are funny. Like they're kind of scraggly looking cats, I think. I mean,
they're unique looking cats.
Yeah, they're very unique.
Because they are that lounging, right? The art has them all sort of sprawled and lounging and with a leg up or a tail out or whatever to make that polyomino shape.
Yeah.
The cats come in different colors.
Yeah.
Red, blue, green, yellow cats. And of course, all the green cats have a certain look to them, right? They all have like a big puff on their tail, and they have funny, red ears and stuff. And they almost look like sort of supernatural. And the brown cats have like sharp whiskers and a striped tail. So you can tell that they're all part of the same family, but they're all in different poses. Each cat is in a different pose.
Yeah. And it's this fictional land that they've created. One of the cats looks like it's got horns. Another cat's got like a third eye in the middle of its forehead.
Yeah.
And, weird stripes and different colors, and they kind of glow a little bit, it looks like to me. They're very vibrant colors. And it's a big board. Everybody has this player board, which is this boat.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly big board.
It's one of those polyomino games where you're not going to fill it up, right?
No, I don't think so.
Like Patchwork. You're not going to fill it all up in Patchwork.
Yeah.
You likely will fill it, most of it, in Feast for Odin. And the whole game in Indian Summer is the first person to completely fill up the tile wins.
Right.
But this isn't a race. This is, let's do your best.
Respond to what's available.
Yes. Yes.
And fill the spots as best as you can. And there's key spots to fill.
That's right. Yeah. Your board is this ship, and the ship is sort of divided up into, rooms, little rooms. And each room, if you don't fill it with cats, is going to give you some negative points.
There's 7 rooms? Is that what
I think so, yeah. I think there's 6 rooms that are all like sort of small rooms on the ship, but then the whole thing is itself a room.
Right. The rooms around the room is a room.
That's right. So you're not going to fill all the rooms, but the idea is that fill as many as you can. And so maybe you'll have 2 or 3 rooms at the end of the game that you didn't fill, and you're going to get negative points for that. And you're going to get negative points if there's any rat symbols that are exposed. So there's all these rats on your ship, and the idea is you cover them up with cats and you don't have a rat problem anymore.
Yeah.
No negative points. That's actually something that you can do. Covering up rats is an attainable goal, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And there's those little icons, right? There's those sort of colored, they look like a scroll or a treasure map. Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
There's a colored piece on the board that matches the cat.
Yeah. So you put a red cat on a red scroll, you get an extra bonus. You get to draft another piece.
Yeah, a tiny little piece that goes wherever you want it to go, kind of thing. Like it fills in a hole in your boat that you couldn't get because the piece was too weird shaped.
Exactly. Every piece you put on your board has to be adjacent to another piece that you put down, unless you get a special bonus tile, which is what happens. So what's interesting about Isle of Cats, although it is a tile placement game, polyomino tiles and trying to fitting them on our board, it's primarily a drafting game.
Yeah, it really is.
Much like how Blood Rage is a drafting game. Everybody says Blood Rage is a big, epic fighting game with monsters and stuff. But yeah, no, you're drafting in that game.
Yeah.
Every round starts off with a draft, and that's same with Isle of Cats.
Yeah.
At the beginning of every round, you start off with a hand of cards, you pick 2 and pass the rest to your opponent. And then your opponents are going to be passing you cards again. You pick 2, and these are the cards we're going to be playing with this round. The cards you're drafting could be lesson cards, these blue lesson cards that score you points. They're either public or private. And so you would draft them into your hand, and then you'd have to pay for them. But then you would place them face down in front of you. And so everyone would know, I've got a private lesson, a scorecard here, placing it face down in front of us. You can also do public lesson cards, and they would go face up. And they'll usually be like, choose a color of cat. That cat's going to give everybody 2 extra points. And when you play it at that time, the player playing it gets to choose which color cat is going to score. There's these purple cards that are play anytime. And so what you can do is you can play them and get you a certain bonus. Maybe you're going to draft an extra cat this round or get a few extra resources. There are rescue cards. These are the green cards, and they will have 2 currencies on them, baskets and sneakers or boots or whatever. And the number of baskets you have will determine how many cats you can rescue. And the number of boots you have will decide where you go in your drafting order. So the player with the most boots drafts first. There's yellow cards that are treasure cards that you can get certain treasure polyomino tiles from the main board and put them onto your tableau. These won't be cats. There'll be special shapes that will help you solve the spatial problems on your board. And finally, there's the brown cards. They're 5-point cards, really expensive cards to play, and that will allow you to draft the Oshak's cat, which is the special sort of brown cat that sort of has an extra large tile.
Yeah, I was calling them like the magical, mystical cats. Like they seem to be the native species to the island or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. They seem special somehow.
Yeah, they have different artwork. They're a different color. And when you put them on your board, you have to choose a color. You have to say, okay, this Oshak's cat is now going to become part of the red cat family or the green cat family.
Yeah, you'll take a little icon and place it on top. So now it's forever that color because you're going to score adjacencies at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you're going to score cat families. You want to get all your red cats touching adjacent to each other. You want to get all your blue cats touching adjacent to each other when you're placing them on the board. That can be pretty tricky in trying to draft the cats you need and be able to place them in the order you want. But at the end of the game, you're going to score according to how big each of these families are. So if you have a cat family that's 3 cats large, you're going to get 8 points. If you have 7 cats that are all touching that are adjacent, you're going to get 25 points. And there's every denomination in between. I think it would be really hard to get more than 4 or 5 cats of the same color touching, but that'd be quite the accomplishment.
I think so too. Like in our game, it was some turns where it'd be like, oh, I'm collecting red and yellow, and there's no red and yellow. Yeah. Or there's one and someone else drafted it.
You're going to get negative points for the rats. You're going to get negative points for not filling your rooms. You're going to score positive points for getting those cat adjacencies. And you're going to get 3 victory points for each of the rare treasures that you've been able to put on your board. Then you'll score your lesson cards. These are the blue cards that you secretly drafted without anybody knowing and placed them face down in front of you. And after that, we score the public lessons that are open to everybody. The person with the most victory points wins.
Yeah, there's a lot to this game. Like, it's a thinky, lot of strategy to it. Like, you're balancing, I want to have a lot of 2 different cat families because I want to have a big group of family. But those pieces don't always let you fill your boat the way you need to.
Yeah.
You might be better just drafting a whole bunch of cats because they fill the space more efficiently.
Yeah.
Or they give you bonuses, or it lets you cover up that little scroll icon that gives you an extra piece that you can put on, and that fills more of your boat. There's a lot to think about.
Each of the cards that you draft into your hand cost currency, which is fish, in order to play them, but then you also need to spend fish to get cats onto your boat. And so even though each round you're given 20 fish, and you'd think, well, that's a lot of fish, there is a lot going on, like you said, because you have to spend fish just to play the cards that you've got. So if you've got a lesson card you want to put down, that's going to cost you a fish, maybe 2. Then you've got the green cards that allow you to draft the cats from the island.
Yeah, that actually gets you pieces. You want to pay for those.
Exactly. You have to pay for those. Those cost fish. And then once you play them, the cats themselves cost fish. And so you really have to be mindful of how much you're spending. You want to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
But there's just not going to be enough resources to do it all.
Exactly. I would say that it is as much about sort of efficiently spending your money as it is drafting.
Yeah.
And as it is sort of that polyomino, spatial recognition and where pieces can go. All 3 things are really important in this game, and you use all 3 skills quite a bit in it. It's not a children's game. It's very colorful, and it's got this cat theme.
Yeah.
But it's a medium weight game. It's not a super heavy game, but it almost feels a little bit heavier than it actually is because of that. Because you're using
that drafting to do everything else. Yeah, it takes a lot of
3 different skills in every round.
Yeah,
really taxes your brain.
Yeah, it works really well. I like the puzzle. I like the placement of the tiles, the spatial puzzle of the polyomino placements. I wish the game was a little bit longer. I would like to have put more cats on the boat and try to fill it out a bit more. I went with a strategy where I got a bunch of lesson cards into my tableau. I think I had 6 different cards.
Yeah.
And each of them were sort of scoring me something twice. I actually had my 6th card was get 7 points if you have exactly 6 lesson cards in front of you. So it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That was the 6th one. Yeah, it was really interesting because, again, you're drafting those cards. And so if you have a big hand of lesson cards, and I've got I'm at my 6, I don't want to draft any more lesson cards. Now I'm drafting lesson cards to keep you from drafting them.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay for them. I'll take them, I'll put them in my hand, and they'll clog up my hand, be part of the 7 cards I end up with this round. But I won't play them. I won't spend the fish on them to play them. They're just out of the game now. They're just, right? Which is kind of interesting. A bit of a incentivizing some hate drafting there.
Yeah.
Because you're not necessarily spending the fish on the cards you've drafted. Once you've drafted them, then you can decide whether or not you want to play them.
Yeah, like there were some really neat decisions. There were some cards that just cost 1, and all they did was give you the opportunity to go first. Like they just gave you boots that made your initiative track go first so that you'd go first. But you have to pay for those cards and pay to play them. And it's like, is that worth it? I don't know. Like it's an interesting decision, but is that really the most important part of this game. For me, I wanted to very much match my families. I wanted to have a bunch of reds and a bunch of blues and a bunch of greens, right? And put them all together and make them touch. But you can't really fill your boat with that strategy. You just kind of make a lot of things touch together.
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily the best way to get points because you're leaving so much of your boat empty and you're not covering rats and that kind of thing. And then when you're drafting the actual tiles, it's not just which tile do I want that will fit in my board. It's also which tile can I afford, or which tiles, multiple tiles can I afford. And do they fit with colors, and do they fit in, in the space that I have available left on my board? And there wasn't a ton of choices too. Like there's more than, I guess, a game like Patchwork. In Patchwork, you're always looking at the next 3 pieces. Yep. And in this game, you've got, I think it was 4 on one side and 4 on the other, but that changes with how many players you have. But it wasn't like the pieces were like, oh, okay, there's 3 good pieces here and 2 good there. It was like, there's 1 good piece. And I got to get that good piece. And everything else is going to be a bit of a challenge to make it work. Yeah. You can rotate all the pieces or mirror them or flip them over. They're double-sided and rotate them however you want. So that was good. I like that. It just felt like this weird juxtaposition. I guess I was looking for this sort of polyomino game, and it was really more about drafting and points.
Yeah. At one point, I had a Play Anytime card that allowed me to draw a bunch of new tiles from the bag.
Right.
And so before my turn, before I drafted my cat, I played that card, which allowed me to take a bunch of tiles, and I could decide, do they go on the left, do they go on the right? And that turn seemed quite like there seemed to be like a multitude of choices at that point. Because now we have lots of different shapes in lots of different colors, and that kind of changed the landscape for both of us. I mean, I got to go first after I played it, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, everybody gets to benefit from a card like that. And there was lots of cards like that in the game. Like they would just immediately give you like a one-time bonus or sort of change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You, of course, had to draft it first, and then you had to pay for it again, and then you then decide when you're going to play it.
You play a card like that, and it costs some money. It doesn't cost a ton, but it costs some money. And it adds all these pieces, and it's like, oh, wow, look at all these options. And I can only afford 1 more. Like now I've got, instead of 8 pieces to choose from, I've got, I don't know what it was, 10 or 12 pieces or something like that. And it's like, wow, that's great. I've got all these things and I can afford 1 more piece. That's it.
Because you have the one basket that'll allow you to draft a cat, and you got maybe 1 card with a basket on it. Yeah, it was interesting. There are ways to get, because drafting cats on the rescuing cat phase is all done with these baskets, and the baskets you get by drafting green cards, and you also get like a permanent basket off to the side that you always have. And when each round you flip it over and it'll allow you to get 1 cat for free.
Right.
But you can also get cards that will allow you to get a new basket. So now if you play that card, you're going to get 2 baskets per round. Now you're getting 2 free cats for every round.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, wish I'd known there were cards like that in the game. It would have been handy to have that early on. And I'll do that upgrade at the first round.
Yeah. It depends when they come out, too, right? I mean, and, I didn't have a lot of the scoring cards. I think I had 2 at the end of the game.
Yeah, those blue lesson cards,
That makes a big difference.
I drafted a bunch at the beginning, and you hadn't. And then a bunch of them came out right at the end.
Yeah.
And, of course, at that point, I'd filled up on lesson cards, so I wasn't drafting any.
And they were all things like the number of different colored cats that you have along the edge of your boat. And it's like, oh, well, I was collecting 3 different kinds of cats. So, or one would say, if you have 1 of every color cat in your boat, I'd be like, nah, I've been collecting 3 the whole time. There's a lot of luck because it's cards, but it's about sort of tactically deciding, where you're going to go and how you respond to them.
And that's why I feel like it's a drafting game primarily, because when the cards come out is so important, because those blue cards come out, those lesson cards come out, the point cards. When they come out at the beginning of the game, you can then plan the rest of your game to hit those strategies.
Yeah.
They come out at the end of the game, you have to be lucky to get the card that already fits to the criteria you've built in your boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
That's Isle of Cats.
Dogs come when they're called. Cats take a message and get back to you later. Mary Bly.
Have you played any of the games that we've talked about today? What's your favorite game featuring a pet or animal? Drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to the Escape Into Board Games podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Escape Into Board Games. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. It helps more people discover Escape Into Board Games. You can get an Escape Into Board Games t-shirt at geekygoodies.com/escape. Or you can help us fuel the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/escape-into-BGS.
This episode is produced by Matt McKenzie and Chris Cormier. Sound editing by Matt McKenzie. Production assistance by Sherry Cormier. Music by John Yasut, Daniel Carlton, and Roman Senyek. See you at the next escape.